I was watching an interview with Jeff Bezos, and he was kind of recalling an interaction that he had had with an executive he had hired onto his team, 25 years ago or whatever. The thing that he was saying was he was fortunate enough to be able to hire his teachers, basically. This guy had been with him for about a year. And he said, I'm the kind of person that you give me a whiteboard in an hour and I'll come up with 100 ideas. He pulled Jeff aside one day and he said, Jeff, you have enough ideas to kill this business.
Welcome back to another episode of Built for Profit. Chris, fired up that we're doing this outside. Number one, got to brag on you for just a second. Honestly, dude, we've gotten to know each other, I guess, for the past, 3 years, maybe?
Almost, yeah.
I guess probably almost 3 years.
Yeah, coming up.
And dude, you're like a constant learner. You're an avid reader. I feel like you just love the game of business in general. So we very much bond over that. And dude, I'm just like fired up to have this conversation with you, fired up to be right outside of the coffee shop, actually, where I guess we met the very first time.
That's right.
About 3 years ago, where we still continue to meet every Wednesday. So yeah, if you want to, just give a little quick intro to who Chris is, how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah. So I would say that I had not a straight line. I think that's probably a lot of people's stories. They didn't really have a straight line to get to where they're going, but I had a lot of interesting experiences along the way. So started off kind of in the hospitality restaurant business and operations, got into new store openings, so building stuff from the ground up. Got into restaurant development, kind of moved into mechanical contracting, commercial mechanical contracting, learned a lot about mergers and acquisitions. We were buying up a lot of businesses there. And that's kind of really where it was almost like an incubator whenever I was in that business. I probably got 25 years of experience in a 5 to 8 year time frame, just because we had to do so many things, But then finally got to the point where I was like, I really want to try and do something on my own. So that's where I am now. We've got a building construction business and just loving it, enjoying running my own business. So
let's go. And so that started actually, I guess, kind of birthed out of the group a little bit. But how long has the construction business been going
on? So we started in January of 23, and then so our mastermind group, met my current business partner there too.
Yeah.
And we've been together for going on 2 years now too.
Let's
go.
go.
Business has been around for about 3. Current partnership's been around for about 2. So,
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, obviously y'all are kind of, 2 years into the weeds of this startup business. Mm-hmm. How has it shifted to who your ideal client is? And so kind of give me how you started, where you're at now, and then what you're dreaming about 5 years from now from an ideal client, kind of work you want to do in the nature of construction.
Yeah, sure. So I would say that like any business, you kind of cast a wide net in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's just like we need to get work basically.
Yep. Get that for sure.
Yeah. And as the ball kind of gets rolling, really, we just start doing a lot of assessment on what is the best return on our time value and where are our skill sets, right?
Yeah.
So what can we do well, and then what's going to give us the best margin for doing those things too. So we have gone mostly into the remodel side of the business, and then also pulling in the new construction side as well. Kind of future thinking, the goal behind that is that as markets begin to shift a little bit and what's happening a lot right now is people are trying to figure out if they want to stay in their home, remodel in place, make it what they really love, or do they want to buy something new that we build? So we're really trying to help a lot of people make those types of decisions about which direction to go in. And for those reasons, we're probably going to always have kind of a foot in both lanes, whether it's new construction and moving into new developments, and then up at the remodel. Right now, honestly, remodel just kind of pays for everything. And the new construction, we're able to, it's just kind of cherries on top as we're selling houses too. So
that's good.
I would say the next 3 to 5 years, what it looks like for us is we'll just be in new construction home development, So our goal is to try and create a really strong process on the remodel side of the business. I want to continue to recruit and develop. We're building a playbook for how to run a really strong customer experience basically on the remodel side of the business.
Yeah.
And that'll be kind of its own standalone thing as we get more into new construction, new development. That's kind of the 5-year plan. So.
Yeah. Well, dude, one of the things that I so respect about you and love about you, even getting into the game of construction, is that you're so much on the forefront of technology and AI and systems and processes. Obviously, a lot of that came from your background, but which I feel like by nature, the construction industry is either really hard to do that because there's so many chaotic, out of your control elements that come into play.
Mm-hmm.
But then also just the nature of the people that are running most construction businesses didn't have to adapt to that at the stage that I guess a lot of businesses are having to adapt to now. So can you speak a little bit to what you're looking for from a standpoint of like implementing AI, implementing software into y'all's processes and systems as you live out that dream that you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, I would say I've been thinking about this recently. I think in some instances, we're just lucky that technology has really been
Yeah.
ramping up in the same time that we're really ramping up the business as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of challenges that business faces that they have been doing a certain thing a certain way for such a long period of time. It's very challenging to shift and change. We're lucky enough to not be this, 15 years into the business.
Point. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody is. So anyway, a couple of things that we're doing is one, I think that the design, planning, and selection process on custom home and remodels is one of the hardest parts of everything, right?
Yeah.
So, like, our main job is taking people from being in a place of anxiety in terms of like don't know what to expect about about a building process, all the
Yep.
way to they're excited about it,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of emotions that you go through in between to be able to get there, you know.
Yep.
Um, so we've found that we're doing a really good job of building their confidence and trust in us. And we're also really excellent on the construction side of things. But
Yeah.
we right now rely very heavily on architects and designers to help with the whole planning process.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's something that we're good at, but architects and designers bring a really strong skill set that there's just a lot to it, right?
Yeah.
So where the area where we're probably targeting the most technology in terms of where we're forward thinking is on that design planning phase of
Yeah.
things. And most of it right now is just aimed at trying to keep things organized, making sure that we're tracking all of our notes, making sure that we remember everything that the client said so that we're meeting their goals. And then it's helping us keep track of a lot of information right now. Forward thinking, I think that as AI continues to evolve, it's going to be doing a lot more than just helping us kind of keep track of things.
Yeah.
It's really going to be helping with kind of the design process in a sense. So it's never going to replace an architect. It's never going to replace a designer, but it is definitely going to be a tool that the client will be able to get some immediate feedback about. Here's the design from the architect. We're going to render this now with all the materials and selections that you've made. So you see exactly what your room is going to look like, exactly
Yeah.
what your new custom home is going to look like before you ever, and so there's companies out there now that are already doing this. But if you can imagine a future where you have an architect and a designer that pull the project together in terms of all the selections and ideas and layouts and structure, and then we 3D render everything very quickly because
Yeah.
technology is shifting so fast. And then you, as a potential homeowner, that's building a custom home or whatever, put on a VR headset, virtually take a tour of your house. It
Yeah. Yeah.
looks
Yeah.
real
Oh,
now.
yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like, well, I don't like that countertop, or I don't want this, or this wall is actually not really where I want it to be. So that's where we're
Yeah.
headed.
Dude, that's remarkable to think about because that's honestly could very much be in the near future. I could see y'all probably doing that like next year,
Oh yeah,
which is just crazy how
yeah,
technology is speeding. Going back to kind of what you're currently doing now, I know you and I talked previously where y'all have these wireless microphones just like we got on now,
hmm
where as you're walking through, a project with a customer, you give that customer a microphone, it's downloading the transcript, the entire conversation that you have. Y'all continue to do that and just putting that into a database to go back to reference that project
that's
all
right.
throughout the life of the project.
Yeah, so we record every conversation that we have, whether it's with our client, whether it's with our team meetings, whether it's phone calls, and then
Yeah.
all of that data is getting dumped into AI models that we've built for individual clients and their projects,
Yeah.
and that model almost works as like a assistant,
Yeah,
a
exactly.
project assistant, because you can go and search any sort of information, you can pull any information out of it. You still have to verify it, but
Yeah.
it's been a pretty powerful tool for us so far. So
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
beautiful thing, man.
yeah.
Okay, so tell me what's working well for AP construction right now in this season in 2025. I mean, is it the team, the processes? Kind of give me a little scope of like what you feel confident that y'all have momentum in.
I think that um, my perspective, just in business in general, has always been that whenever you have a really, really sharp focus on the customer experience
Yeah.
and the client experience in this instance, that most other things tend to take care of
Yeah.
them. I think that that's the thing that we probably do really, really well. I think it's something that we do better than a lot. What our clients tell us about what their experiences they've had with other contractors in the past is pretty much what's standard for kind of the norms in the industry right now. There's always going to be businesses that do really well, but in the contracting world, people are used to somebody coming in and it's going to take too long, cost too much, and they're not going to get what they want.
Yep. Yep.
We are trying to fight that every
Yeah.
single day by delivering a really great experience. And the way that the analogy that I always use whenever I'm talking about it is, if you can imagine you're going on a road trip, there's a big difference between me saying, "Hey, Austin, we're going to go on a road trip. this is where we're going. This is what the weather's going to look like. This is what you need to pack. This is how long we're going to be gone.
Yeah, yeah,
And then we get in the car and I tell you, this is how long the trip's going to take. This is what time we're going to be eating lunch. This is about where we'll be. Let's pick a lunch spot before we go. Or this is the last rest stop. You got to use the restroom. There's not going to be another one for 4 hours. You
yeah,
know, rather than on the other side, on the inverse of that would be, hey man, we're going to take a trip, and we'll get there. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and then that's kind of like some people's experience too.
Oh,
It's just like,
100%.
are
Yeah.
we there yet? It's like, no, we're not there yet. When are we going to get there? You know,
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
So like what we're trying to do is we want to try and communicate ahead of the questions coming,
yeah.
set the expectations so that our clients understand what's going on, you know, and so we are not perfect at it, believe me, but it is our goal. Yeah.
But to strive for that, I think, like you said, the beauty of like your industry is that when you live in this proactive ability to like give a heads up to the client, it is a vastly different experience than most clients get from any other contractor on the planet, right? Because so many people are managing so many jobs and they're just kind of always running to the squeaky wheel. And so the quiet wheels never actually get the proactive approach. And so I just love what y'all are building to do that. Are you like, what's your kind of talk to the systems behind being in that proactive state, the guide, the driver of the road trip, you know, to be like, hey, this is the last rest stop. How are y'all doing that from like the systemized approach to the client?
So one thing that we have been doing that is like a little too hands-on is just the daily communications with the client, you know, video updates about what's happened with their project, whether it's you know, what we use a system called Link. And Link
Okay, yeah.
basically works as just, I mean, it's text message, phone calls, and emails kind of converge in one platform. And so our clients interact with us through that platform. So anybody on the team has access to all the history of the communication with that client. And so we're giving daily feedback, we're giving video updates. Something that we're launching this week actually is just going to be a weekly report. And that weekly report is basically going to be anything from this is what happened, a recap of what happened during the week, the schedule for the next week so that they know what's coming, you know, day to day, what our goals are to try and get accomplished for the next week. We're going to give them a 4-week snapshot of what we're trying to get accomplished for longer projects as well. And then and then making sure that they understand here's the decisions that they're still responsible for. Here's what we're working on.
Yeah.
And you know, every now and then too, like I'll do a quick video where I'll take a video of myself talking about things that are happening behind the scene and just sending it to them. You know,
Yeah.
so because we're not always on site 100% of the time, and so it's good for them to see our face and know that we're still working on things for them. So it's trying to bring transparency to something that is the thing about remodeling and new construction is people don't do it very often.
Yeah.
And so it's not like going to buy a cup of coffee where you know where to get it, about how much it costs, what to expect, what tastes good, what tastes bad. You know, you know all these things because it's common. Doing this type of work is not common. And so you have to be a guide through the process to help educate them along the way because they don't know what to expect.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you bring up a good point. Even like the video text messages that you send out, because I've received some of those as well, that it's like there's this massive, like as we walk into the age of AI and automation and all these things, that you could automate all reminders and updates and checklists and to-dos and all those things, that I think there's just going to be a beautiful power in that personal touch point. You've told me a lot about that. I've actually implemented that in the flywheel as well, to be like, hey, we can't just rely on 100% automations in the computer to get us from point A to point B, that you have to have those personal touches. And people crave those personal touches. And it makes a massive difference in their experience walking through a project that way. Love the concept of you implementing that in y'all's business. Okay, on the flip side of that, so tell me a little bit about like what's the main bottleneck that you see in y'all's business that you're trying to like break through or hire for or whatever that looks like?
Main bottleneck, I would say, I think with any business, it's really just about once you have, so we're building a playbook for our business right now, you know, and this playbook is probably going to be the most comprehensive document that we'll have that exists. And it literally is everything that has to be done for every project every single time. And it's one thing to have a playbook and have a play to run, and it's another thing to actually run the play. It really just comes down to execution at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think that's not necessarily a bottleneck, but it's just the thing that has to happen. You know, so like as we're recruiting and hiring more people, I want to find someone that when we finish a project, whether it's we're building a new house or whether we're remodeling a home, whatever, I want the client to has had as much fun as the team member that was involved. Because I think that when you hire the right people that just really enjoy the process of like helping somebody get through this remodel and like they get fulfillment out of the entire process too, because they brought joy to somebody's life, then it's just a huge win for everybody. And that's when execution really starts to take off. I would say it's not quite a bottleneck because we haven't been going hard into it yet, but recruiting is going to be the main thing
Yeah.
we need to focus on, like bring the right people into the business.
Yeah, for sure. I think to that point, because I'm trying to implement the exact same thing. I think the hardest thing you and I can come up with ideas all day, every day, and love the ideas, but execution and living those things out is always the hardest part. But I just so respect, pilots and doctors, two very well-paid professions that no matter what they're doing every single day, they're walking through a checklist, no matter if they've done it for the 2000th time or the second time in their life. They're literally walking that process. So I love what you're building there, because I think, I was trying to think through, even for pilots and doctors, they have to have a strong why of why they were even motivated to walk their checklist that they've done a million times, right? And honestly, both of them have people's lives at stake. So they got to do it, But to have that same why power for you, of y'all's team, to be like, listen, if we walk through this checklist consistently every single time, we get to reap the benefits of the joy that client gets. And that also fulfills our team as well. I think that's just a really, really cool thing. Is there something that you've kind of talked with your team from a culture standpoint of like trying to build the why power behind execution?
I think part of it, something that came to mind as you're kind of talking through that is like, yeah, it's not life or death, obviously,
Yeah.
with what we're doing, but we're one of the most expensive. We are one of the most expensive costs that people have, in terms of an expense, single large expense. I mean, we're talking, 6 figures and higher for these projects. And so I think we have a strong sense of fiduciary responsibility to our clients as well. I think that's part of the reason why I've focused. I want people to have a great experience. One, because whenever they have a great experience, the business really starts to sell itself after a period of time. But they are spending a lot of money with us too. And we have to make sure that process is great. It is crazy to me, and I've said this stat before, but there was a stat that was released last year that was a national survey run. 47% of people that have gone through a remodel or build process regret having done it. And it was for the 3 things that I said earlier. It either cost way more than it was supposed to, went way longer than it was supposed to, or they didn't even get the results that they were looking for. And it's just insane to me that somebody could spend $500,000, $1 million more, right, and still not get what they were looking for. Because you think about Disney World as an example. Disney World, Universal Studios, you go to these places and you spend a lot of money while you're there, but you have an experience. It is fun. You enjoy it. Every touch point that you have along the way, it's a pleasure to be a part of that process. It's not a pain,
Sure.
So I have that stuck in my mind all the time, where it's like, how can we make it different to where it's actually fun, where they enjoy it, where like they're surprised by certain things and they're led in a way to where they know what to expect. And so I think that we talk about that a lot, is that people spend a lot of money with us. They should have a good time. This should not be hard. And it is challenging because there's a lot of decisions that have to be made.
For sure.
And so depending on the client's personality type, that can be very challenging for them, but it's our job to help guide through their process too. So.
That's a great point, because I think the more that you do have the checklist and the processes to make it easier decisions for the clients, that's going to ramp up their experience and their joy through the process even more, right? Because I remember thinking, when y'all renovated our kitchen, even thinking through, Sam and I, my wife and I, sitting on the couch to be like, where do we want this outlet to go? Well, if we put the microwave there, where does this go? It's just you almost get decision fatigue, when you're trying to walk through those things. And so y'all guiding us through that made it a whole lot better. And so it just, having that process to really help us. Some people that are not in the nature of construction never are thinking about that stuff, right? But it's all the details that they're going to either wish they would have done during construction because they didn't think about it. So I think as y'all introduce that process even more to really guide people, be the guide for those people.
That's right.
It's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Well, just tell me what you're kind of most excited about in this season. What are you dreaming about? I know you mentioned a little bit, but just kind of tell me what you're excited about.
So there's 2 things that kind of came to my mind when I was watching an interview with Jeff Bezos, and he was kind of recalling an interaction that he had had with an executive he had hired onto his team, 25 years ago or whatever. The thing that he was saying was he was fortunate enough to be able to hire his teachers, basically. And so this guy had been with him for about a year. And he said, I'm the kind of person that you give me a whiteboard in an hour and I'll come up with 100 ideas, And I forget the guy's name, but he pulled Jeff aside one day and he said, Jeff, you have enough ideas to kill this business. And he was like, what are you talking about? I thought ideas were the kind of the energy behind it all. Right? And he said, yes, ideas are great, but you have to learn the pace at which the business can accept the amount of ideas that you have.
Great point.
And dude, it was so profound for me to listen to that interview, because I had never thought about me being the problem. So whenever you talk about bottlenecks, it's not a bottleneck, but I can be part of the problem. And so
Yeah.
like something that I am excited about working on for myself personally right now is trying to bottle more of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I actually do a lot of journaling now. I'm keeping lists of ideas that I have, maybe businesses that we want to start in the future or whatever,
Yeah.
because I'm realizing that I don't need to continue to put all of that pressure on the team. Because as soon as I put an idea out there, they feel like they have to do something
Yeah.
about
Exactly.
it.
Sure.
And so it can be a distraction rather than so
Yeah.
simplifying the business so that we're only focused on the playbook and
Yeah.
just running the plays as many times as we can and recognizing where things didn't go quite right and what we need to tweak. Really excited about getting that kind of in place because we have the right people now to really work on the right problems in the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
business. And so I would say this next year, we've been in business for 3 years, but I would say 2026 is going to be transformational in that we're going to have a team that can really help launch this thing,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And so I don't really have an end goal in mind in terms of how far we want to go. I just want it to be fun along the way. And I want the people that are involved to make a ton of money too. The value that they're bringing into the business, I want them to receive that value back as
Yeah.
well too. And I really want to focus on trying to build the right culture within the business so that we have people just want to stay. I want them to stay there for as long as they want to be there too. So, fun things, it's probably not that sexy and exciting, but like I can see how it's going to impact the business over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And so I just get excited about it.
Yeah, man. Well,
Yeah.
okay, I got to go back to your point about the ideas thing because, dude, I felt so guilty. In fact, I went on vacation. This was probably 6 months ago. Took a break, went on vacation with family, came back, and I crave vacations because that's where I get some of my best ideas for the business, or I'm reading a book on that vacation or whatever.
Same. Yeah.
And the first team meeting I got back to,
Doing everything. Yeah.
I did some of that. And multiple people on the team goes, well, we knew this was coming. And I was like, oh, shoot.
Sorry. Yeah.
So I actually heard the other day, and I'm going to start implementing this, is that any idea that you have as a business leader, whatever, journal it, jot it down. Don't tell anybody about it, or not anybody in your team. Obviously, you have other people outside of your team. Not anybody in your team about it, and journal it, and do that for at least the rest of the quarter. So let the quarter flush itself out and do what you put as the goal for the quarter for that quarter. And then when you're planning next quarter, revisit all those journals that you made over the past 90 days and say, is this even worth it anymore? And just do things in 90-day sprints. So you're not rocking the boat every time you get a new idea mid-quarter about something that you set a goal for last quarter to accomplish this quarter. And so anyway, I'm going to start implementing that from a standpoint of saying like, because I'm an external processor, probably similar to you. I'm like, can't wait to tell the team about some brand new idea and let them go do the idea behind it, go build it. And I'm like, I am really rocking the boat too much.
Yeah. Well, perfect example is, so I'm also on the Commercial Development Authority board for the city of Pelham, and we are trying to bring developers in for certain different spots that we, land that the city owns, and we're trying to, develop it, whatever. So we've got these architectural plans that are coming in for these big developments, and I had some in the office with me one day, and every week we have a Friday morning team meeting, all team meeting to just like recap the week, plan out things, whatever. And I had these architectural plans, these renderings out for this development. One of the guys, because we're in residential, right? Like we're doing custom home planning, new construction, remodel, whatever.
Yeah.
And so like having a big architectural schematic and plan for this big commercial development, multi-use, whatever, is not what they're used to seeing around. The guys picked it up, and he was just looking at it. And he was flipping through it. I said, oh, that's a project for the CDA that I'm working on. We're looking at potential developers coming in, whatever. And he was like, oh, thank God. And I was like, what? He was like, I thought we were going to go build this, So, again, whenever you throw ideas out there, team's ready to do it. But like when they're used to somebody that dreams big enough, nothing is a surprise to them anymore. Right. Yeah. And so he was just looking at it thinking like, well, we're going to have to figure this out.
But to protect their even mindset or what's in the back of their mind, I think is another part of just being a leader, right? Yeah. So like to be like, no, we're not doing that project. Yeah. You can stay in your safe zone of saying like, we're focused on what we're focused on.
Maybe in 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, one last question before we wrap up. Is there anything, I'm always curious from any business owner, what are the key things they're tracking on a daily basis, weekly, daily, monthly, whatever that looks like? I'm curious what that looks like. Obviously, you're focused on customer experience, customer engagement. So what does that look like for you of something that you kind of consistently go back to kind of check to see whether it's numbers or metrics or whatever that you feel like good or not good based on what you're seeing?
I would say, so running this business is different than the last business that I ran. And so like the gross margins and the net profit were totally different. So it's something that I had to get used to. So that's something I am checking almost weekly, as silly as that sounds,
Yeah.
you know, because I want to know on a project by project basis kind of where we stand. So tracking gross margin, tracking our net profit by job. So we're doing job costing for every single job, where we're drilling down into this is what we said it was going to cost, or we thought it was going to cost us what it actually cost. We're tracking utilization a lot in terms of just the cycle of a project. We want to know from start to finish how long it took, how long we thought it was going to take, and what's the difference between the two. Something that happens in our Friday team meetings is we do after action reviews. Project's over with. Let's kind of go through the whole thing, you know,
Yeah.
from start to finish. What went right? What would we do differently? What lessons and principles can we pull out of that and start to apply forward? Now that we're really focusing on the playbook, what do we need to change about the play? What went right? What went wrong? Also, how often are we touching the clients in terms of like communication with them? How often are they receiving information from us?
Yeah.
And the way that we're building the business is really going to be more focused on the project manager and them having a ton of ownership over the
that.
projects. There's going to be a lot of metrics that are built into the way that they operate as well,
Yeah.
so that they have specific scorecards that they can follow for themselves. One, their financial bonuses will be based off of that.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot that will be based on it, but they also need to know if they're doing a good job or not.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So past that, a lot of the basic stuff, that people pay attention to the business. So it's just we're checking pricing probably 4 times a year. This was something that I learned from the CFO from a former company, that you always want to price ahead of the curve, basically.
Yeah.
And so we're consistently checking pricing throughout the year. But past that, we have a really sharp focus on the client experience and a lot of measurements and metrics behind that. And then just making sure that everything's kind of flowing through too.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't, it's why. Like, why? Did something cost more than we thought it was going to? Did we underbid something? Did it take longer than it was supposed to? Whatever.
Yeah.
I would say utilization, pricing are two of the biggest drivers that most businesses just need to pay attention to, understand really, really well. Past that, you got to know, stop paying attention to revenue. Look at your look at your gross profit, and look at your net profit. Because I think that I think too many businesses just think about top line revenue, and it's just like, well, that's not.
Well, it's fun to brag about because it's the biggest number.
It is the biggest number. That's right. Yeah. But there's also, are your cost of goods, cost of sales. You have to take those into account, because that's not your money.
That's exactly right.
It's gone already.
Yeah, that revenue is not going into your pocket. That's exactly right.
That's right. Yeah. So a few things.
Yeah, for sure. Well, dude, I think the beauty of what you just mentioned, I love the PM specific scorecard that's incentive based, because to me, the beauty behind creating a really honed in, simplistic scorecard for people is now they know, based on their score, that's how you as a business owner are evaluating their position. And then they also can see it, and it's visible to them to understand, what do I need to do to improve based on what my business owner is valuing my position on. And so I just think there's so many wins behind intentionality and building that out right, so that your guys are focused and lasered in on what's going to move the needle for you as a business, and also move the needle for them as making more money, giving them more fulfillment, all the things that you're trying to build.
Yeah. Well, I got inspired by the story of Nucor Steel.
Okay.
They had a CEO that came in, I want to say in the 90s sometime, and he saw too much bureaucracy and too many layers. And so they had steel manufacturing plants all across the US. And he basically flattened out their org chart, right? Where he wanted to have, in most steel industry businesses, they would have thousands of employees at headquarters that were managing all kinds of different things. He ran a multi-billion-dollar business with 70 people at the headquarters, and then he pushed all decision-making back down to the general managers of each individual site location. And so the production teams actually were incentivized they had incentivized pay, so the more productive the manufacturing plant was, the more the hourly employees started making too. So in a lot of instances in that story, the hourly people that were actually doing the work were making more than the manager, because they were able to produce more. And so it created this culture of just we don't need a lot of people in the home office so during a time of downturns in the industry, during times of growth, whatever, he turned it into almost like a $40 billion company.
Yeah.
and I actually just had lunch with a guy yesterday that worked for U.S. Steel for a period of time, and we
Okay.
were talking about that story. And he was like, "Yeah, they would kick our butts all the time,
Yeah.
man." And it's so like that's where when I think about our project managers, I want to push, I want to educate them and give them the resources that they need and the
Yeah.
direction that they need, but I want to give them autonomy to be able to be successful. So we got to find the right people to fill those roles, because I love the idea of us hiring the right people in, not having to have a huge, robust headquarters, but we have individuals that are extremely talented and have the right resources to be able to be super, super successful.
That's so good, man.
yeah,
I love it. Well, dude, we could sit here and talk for hours.
yeah.
Obviously, love you as a friend and just loving just chatting life and business all the time. But as we wrap up, what's the best place for people to find you if they're looking for Chris and AP Construction? And where do they go to find you?
Yeah, I think the easiest place, just go to apconstructs.com, and then you can get all of our socials are there linked up.
Love it.
You can book an appointment with us. Whatever.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thanks so much for chatting outside, right outside the coffee shop.
Yeah.
So appreciate you coming today.
Yeah, man. Had a good time.